Welcome to episode 35 of Music, Spirit and Accountability. This is a bit of a monumental podcast for us today. 35 feels big for me for some reason, and just the connection that I get to have with you through this podcast, the things we speak about, maybe also why we do this podcast. Maybe I'll just kick it off with the why, and I think our first episode, we literally go through the process of creating the podcast. We did it in real time because Michael is just a dear brother of mine who I just love. I'm going to get emotional. I just love and respect so much from the bottom of my heart for exactly who he is. The magic that he brings to the world and the way I see it, the magic that he brings to me, my relationships with other people, and just the better representation of myself. And the reason we did this was because it was an excuse to hang out more, to bring the magic of, music, spirit, and accountability to the world and to ourselves, which is a big part of how we connected. And it does that. And without this podcast, I just wouldn't speak with Mike as much, to be completely honest. And I wouldn't have the opportunity to have such monumental, pivoting, life-changing experiences so regularly. The learnings, the experience. So the why for me was just because I get to hang out with my bestie every week. And for anyone out there that's thinking of creating a podcast and is looking for a why, a great why, I think, is to have a chance to hang out with your bestie more often and have a better connection with that. And this is our accountability to spend some time together every week and to share our magic with you guys. But without that thread of doing it for ourselves, to create this to share with you guys, it wouldn't be there. So what's your why with this, Mike? What's been your why?
Firstly, thank you for that beautiful honouring. That was unexpected. I didn't know that's where we were going
You never
today.
do. And we're going to talk about some of those things
I
today.
never do. I never
You
know
never
where we're
do.
going to
You
go.
never know what I'm going to say. I just kick
I
it off and I
never
choose a
know.
theme. And Mike, sometimes I see his hesitance, like, oh, Jesus, what's he going to say
All
this
right.
time? I've
All
even got
right.
him into trouble. Not intentionally, and not even that the information was about what it was perceived possibly to get him in trouble. But anyway, back to you.
Yeah. It's but thank you for those words, mate. Really, yeah, beautiful. Caught me off
Mm,
guard, to be honest. Um, and that is like I was as you were sharing that. I can remember the very first or the night that listened to your voice message about, hey, we should just hit record on this next chat and turn it into a podcast. And I was in my house at Mudgera at the time. It was quite dark. I had a candle lit on. I was sitting right on the edge of my bed near the pillow. I can tell you exactly where I was when my whole world went, oh, yeah, we can talk about that. I didn't say
yeah.
yes. So yeah, again, thank you for those reflections, mate. They were really beautiful to hear and receive. Um, my why, my why for this is I love the challenge. Like I really don't know what we're going to get. You always seem to find the thing that's percolating, bubbling away, and it's really pulling me into an edge.
Yeah.
But I love finding that edge, and I love walking that tightrope. It's usually with cut glass usually as well. So um, to me, that brings an aliveness into me, but it also brings authenticity and just speaking my truth and being vulnerable enough to go, all right, well, this is in a public forum, and these are my shadows, these are my wounds, this is me, this is what I've navigated in life. Um, but I also find that our chats permeate out into my life after the call.
Yeah.
I'll often be driving along and I'll be like, what would Jay do? Or I'll sit into the podcast energy again and listen for your voice. Um, and for me, I know like just to resonate with or reinforce, sorry, what you just shared, I would say for me, and I probably might be able to speak for you, is we're best friends,
Mm,
but life is busy and I've moved, like I'm not in proximity as now, I'm not so close now.
yeah.
So catching up on the island is a lot harder these days than what it would have been previously. And I remember when you were back in Coomera, that was still even a challenge because it was a good 30-minute drive, but we made that work. And it's giving us this, like, I forget we're doing a podcast. I think it's you and I chatting, and then next thing I know that you've gone, I just done the edits for that, and I'm like, oh, that's right, we record this.
Yeah.
It's so, I forget that we're doing a podcast. I really do. And it's really just you and I chatting, and it's that accountability, but it's real brotherhood. It's
Yeah.
brotherhood accountability, and men should be seeking counsel from men. Usually we used to do that sitting around the fire, and I guess our microphone is our proverbial fire.
Yeah.
um, and I've gone through some really dark phases, especially in the last 12 months. Well, maybe even longer than that, but and very typical of a man, I would probably just try and, hide in my cave, deal with it myself, and find the solution, and come out when it's all rainbows again.
Mm.
But in this scenario, I get invited to not only share with you, well, I guess inadvertently we're sharing with everyone else, but I don't see that aspect of it. I just get to share with you, and I do get to lift my head up for a little bit. I do get to come out of the cave.
Yeah.
And so it's really that accountability. It's the
Yeah.
accountability to get out of my comfort zone, the accountability to connect with you. And we don't just chit chat. We actually have really deep chats.
Yeah.
Like, we talk real stuff, and it permeates to my soul.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's the accountability of, and then there's this little thread, and it's not a big driver, but it's about showing up for everyone else as well. And it's
Yeah.
not a huge driver. I don't see it. It dropped into my awareness just then as like, oh, we haven't done one for a while, so we really
Yeah.
should keep that momentum going, which is more accountability. It's it's to be of service to the greater community through our own shit that we're navigating, and it's like,
Mm.
hopefully someone.
There you go. There's the
Yeah.
mic drop. There's the mic drop right there. He's known for
Yeah.
it, people. Ah, you just quietly. Mike is known for his mic drops. So when he's speaking at these amazing events around the world, as he does, in his coaching headspace, he's known for his mic drops and saying small combinations of words that just blow people's minds, and that's why, almost every podcast you'll hear me go, "Ooh, that
Oh,
one got me." That's what we call a mic drop in Mr. Cooper's world. So
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, brother. Mm.
Beautiful. So, just to reflect on a few of those things, I think we just do a bit of a ping pong about why we do this, and I think this is especially for anyone that's thinking about doing a podcast or getting involved, but just for us to take a moment to
Mm.
reflect on everything we've been through in the last 34 episodes, because there's been a lot. And before we started this podcast, yeah, we had a bit of a chat, and we kind of came to the conclusion that sometimes, in these podcasts, we literally talk about ourselves. Obviously, we talk about our own experiences and sharing them in the spotlight of having the record button on. Just that alone, and knowing that this is going to be out to the public, for whatever reason, it does put a slightly different spin on that. Now, 34, 35 episodes in, we've got a bit more experience now, so we're not thinking about that as much. But in that initial phase of the sharing, there's something, when I initially hit record, there's something that goes, ooh, in us
Yep.
every time we do it, right?
Yep.
And the magic that brings. So yeah, leaning into that has been a challenge for both of us. And the couple of things you said for me too, one of the main reasons I do this is the effects it has on my personal life. You said the way it permeates out into my personal life. And exactly like you, I think about, I've got you in my ear in those weeks weeks after podcasts. And I've also got myself in my ear. I've got myself listening to the things that I said and being like, there's been so many times on this podcast where I've said things in real time and gone, I could improve on that. I could improve on that in my life and still raise the bar on what I just spoke into. And it's like that: practice what you preach, walk the walk, talk the talk, all those things. There's something about this podcast that has really up-leveled that for me and made me more aware. Do you find that same thing?
Categorically. Yeah,
Yeah.
emphatically. I think for me, and as you were sharing that just then, the words that popped into my mind were vulnerability and authenticity.
Yep.
And so I know that I've always been very open. That I think most people who know me know that. But my level of authenticity now is through the roof. Because
Mm.
if I'm sharing what happened to me in my childhood here for everyone to listen to. I'm owning that. I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a part of me. And so, yeah, I think those words of authenticity and vulnerability and the ability to express my vulnerability
Yeah.
to in intimate situations, I don't second guess it now. It just comes out. Hey, I just would really love to share. This is what I'm feeling right now. I don't have a, oh, see, pullback. I use discernment, obviously. I understand the role of discernment in intimate conversations, but those two things, this podcast has helped significantly in peeling back my layers, being more open, more vulnerable, and then the fullest expression of that.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, mate. Yeah, feel all of that deeply. This podcast, the thing that comes up the most, I think, is that I've done it for me. I've done it for me, and I really see it like when I started posting things on my social media from this podcast, the um, the little interaction that it got and interest from my general fan base that come to me through music and my guitar playing and touring the world as a musician, my teaching music schools, etc. All those videos of my guitar tutorials and all that stuff, YouTube, whatever, all these things, they get heaps of views and heaps of interest. But with the ones that we do, when I post the shorts from these interviews, I get very little or no interest or likes, right? And that kind of hurt me a little bit. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And it got to the point where I stopped posting our stuff as much because I was like, well, algorithms, blah, blah, blah. And then I got to a point a month or so back where I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm actually going to put more now that we're not getting interest. I'm going to put more on for me because I love it. No, it wasn't really quite like that, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep doing it. And sharing that magic with the world because it's so important to me.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of who I am. And I'm super proud of what we do. And whether one person or 10 people watch it, that's okay. I'm not doing it for those reasons. And we've never done it for those reasons. So just leaning back into doing that for me has been a really nice learning and coming back to being at peace. Saying that, the podcast is getting more and more views and listens every time in its entirety through all the podcast streaming platforms. We're building every week and every month now, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
But
right.
the shorts in my platform. So again, just putting it out to people, like, be clear on what you're doing it for if you're doing it for you,
Mm.
and not playing into what everyone else thinks about it, because this is one of the most rewarding things that I get to experience every week,
Yeah.
as is all the other aspects of my life, but this is a big part of it, and
Mm.
I don't want this to end. I want to keep going to 100 and 1,000 and 10,000 episodes. I'd like to do it more often, but we get it in. Like the other thing, having our busy schedules, and we get it in. So how do you feel about what I just shared, brother?
Yeah, very much so. Like, I think if you look at social media as a whole, um, a lot of people get the impression, and I drank that Kool-Aid. A lot of you know now that I'm not on social media, and but previous to that, I was the performing monkey. I did my 5 posts a day. I did my stories. I did my replies. I jumped through all the hoops that they tell you should do, and all my content was should driven. Oh, you should be saying this. You should be doing this. You should be closing here, and you should be. And I was like, I think if you people what they truly buy is your essence and your authenticity. It's irrelevant what comes out my mouth. It's can they feel me? Does it resonate with them? Does it land? Like you said, I might say something and you get that, oh, oh, that one rocked.
Oh
Okay, and
yeah.
that's what they're buying, right? And I think when we cast back to where we originally started, the very first chats around was, hey man, I really enjoy. We were doing um, various little stuff on the side, and we were having chats, and I'm like, mate, I really enjoy our time together. What if we made this a little bit more formal and we started just held each other to account every week? That's where it started. It was like, why don't we do once a call, once a week, where we hold each other to account, drive our businesses forward, and then it just sort of gathered momentum and snowballed into what it is today. And that was for us. And we didn't show up to those calls or these ones any different than we do the whole time. Hey, brother, what's it like for you? How are you doing? Yeah, man, I'm going through this. And we, next thing you know, we're neck deep into it, and like, we should just hit record on this. Um, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's very much, we don't have that lens of performing. We don't have that lens of an outcome. Like, we don't. Like, we're not sitting there going, oh, we got 42 likes on that. I don't even know what gets posted these days because I'm not on social. Um, I do recall, though, when I was on social, from time to time, I'd get really surprised and someone would reach out and tell me that they listened to the podcast. And I was like, oh, wow, really? Like, someone, and they got value from it. And that's always surprising. And so we just show up anyway, whether one person or zero people watch it, and we do our thing. And I think eventually, if I was in business or if someone was looking to do this, that's how we become ambitious. And ambition is, ambi meaning two or dual, embracing the positive and negative ions. So ambitious or ambition is when I've got 500 likes, can I keep going? And when I've got zero likes, can I keep going? Because when there's hurdles, I can just stumble, I can fall, I can collapse, but I'll get back up because I've embraced both sides of this, the polarity of
There it is, right there. Another mic drop. I love it.
it.
Yeah, embracing that opportunity. And I, I love that in this podcast, we're not talking about any of the things that we do. Like, we're
Mm.
not trying to promote, like, I'm not trying to promote the music schools or my coaching or Tribal Moon, Cacao, whatever. Look, there I go. I just promoted all three of them. But, we're not trying to, we're not coming on here to talk about our stuff to promote it. We're just having a chat. And
Yeah.
if those things come into the field, for sure.
They
But
weave, they weave their way in
yeah,
through, randomly, like not specific plugs, but it is a part of us. Like Trouble Men's a part of, very much a part of you and me, my morning practice. But
yeah.
it's not an intentional plug.
This is something that I struggle with, to be honest, in social media world because I've come from that background of not being very involved in social media. I've had to a little bit because of my music touring and the things that have to be out there for people to know that I'm performing that location or doing a workshop in that location or things like that. And for booking clients and selling cacao and stuff like that, I do need it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't. I don't have any interest in going on social media to look at other people's things because everyone that I know that I'm connected with literally sends me photos. Like, I'm a bit old school, I guess. They send me text messages. They now, I guess, with Messenger, I had to get Messenger in 2019 when COVID hit because I was at the Taste of Love festival and everyone needed to get hold of me, and some people only had Wi-Fi and they were like, you have to get this Messenger thing on Facebook. So then I got
Yeah,
Messenger and I started opening that can of worms. But everyone that knows me knows not to ever message me on a social media platform because I'll never
yeah,
reply. Oh, except for Messenger through my personal page, not through my profile, not through my
business.
business page. Yes, thank you. So yeah, it's still interesting to me. I struggle with that, and I struggle posting personal stuff. I have to really go like, oh, I've got to. It's not an all like I don't want to. It's like, oh, I've got to post something personal. It just doesn't. It's never felt natural. It's not something that I have an
Mm.
interest in sharing my personal life on that, but I do now because I understand it increases other areas, and then more people will see the next Tribal Moon post or the next music school post or whatever, and that's enough incentive to do it. Um,
Different generations too, man. I think you look at the kids. I was watching Idol the other night. I get great inspiration, and it sort of inspires me to do more music when I watch these live performers testing themselves on stage. And sometimes you sit there and, like, I've got this commentary running in the background as I see a performer come on, and you start, their first note comes, you're like, oh, this is going to be good, and you can see, and you just get lit up, and then as the song goes on. But anyway, my point is, this girl
mm,
walked in from the very beginning, vlogging herself. That doesn't even sound right. But
we know what you
see,
mean.
I'm from the wrong generation.
Yeah,
And she was vlogging, so she was vlogging and filming while she's being filmed on Idol. That's a part of their world. They share everything
yeah,
from food to underwear to nails to my teeth to my makeup, the whole thing.
the whole thing.
Where that doesn't, it's not in my space because I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah, yeah,
For me, I have to pull my phone out and remember to film it because I just didn't grow up in that world of filming me eating breakfast.
And that's coming back to another reason why I love this podcast so much. And people have asked and said, what do we talk about? And yeah, we talk about ourselves and our own experiences in this lifetime. That's simply it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just such a beautiful sharing these analogies and these learnings that we get from each other in each and every episode. And again,
Mm.
like you said, with our busy lives, having this time to hang out, the accountability to show up for ourselves, to show up for each other, to show up for the people listening, and to show up most of all, I think, for the things that we say.
Mm.
As in during the podcast, the things that come out in these conversations, we say things we're like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's a trigger of my own. Like, yeah, I've got to lean in more to what I just said.
Yep. Yep. I can work on that. I can be better there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think too, this is a massive generalization and I could get shot for this, but I don't think, and I'm going to use men specifically, I don't think too many men would get to sit with their, like, I cannot think of anything outside of this screen right now. And
Yeah.
my mind's not wandering off to the whatever's going on outside or my emails, nothing. I'm here with you. So I'm
Yeah.
fully present. Yes, I have that as a natural deposition of who I am, but I'm actually really dialed into you right now.
Yeah.
And not many men have that once a week where they have a, hey, brother, what's on your heart? Like, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And we don't mince, there's no niceties of, how's the weather when we start? Like we get on the chat, we open up, so hey brother, how are you? That's the only surface level thing, and then that's like, all right, let's get in there, and we're
Yeah.
in. And it's always there's always a depth to
Mm.
our conversations, and
Yeah.
because we don't sugarcoat it, we don't surface level of it, we don't go shallow, we go deep, and we go, all right, bare my soul, what is it? Oh, okay. I've
Yeah.
had tears on the podcast more times than I care to remember, even today, in
Yeah.
your first
So
intro,
did yeah. Yeah. Mega tears
like
today.
totally.
Oh, and we take
And
one for
it's
the
not
team. Like
unusual.
I turn off my fans and my aircon every time, so you can see my profuse sweating just growing throughout the podcast every time. So I make sure the listeners' audio is nice and clean.
Getting nice audio for them.
That's right.
Um,
Even things like saying ums and ahs in our conversations has been something for me. I've had to pull myself up on multiple times. The way I speak, the mannerisms, the clarity, all these things are beautiful learnings that we benefit from this podcast.
yeah. And it comes back to the theme of the podcast around that accountability piece. But it's holding ourselves to a higher level of accord in
Mm,
everything we do.
yeah,
And then we've got each other to hold each other towards that. And
yeah.
it's beautiful, like beautiful. We had a chat earlier around well, it was around almost this journey of, like, I remember how many years would it be? It must have been. It's guaranteed. It's been 2 years. I can say that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Uh,
coming up 2 years, I think.
yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah,
And I remember anyway. Um, they were always really edgy conversations to start with. Like, it was always, especially in the early days. And you've already mentioned this in this podcast, so I'm mildly going over what you shared. But when you go to hit record, you go, "You ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and then you hit record, and I have to quickly regulate,
mm,
because I knew I was really being to the depth of my soul and transparent, and as a human, one of our highest needs is to be seen, and I'm allowing myself to be seen, or in this case, heard,
yeah.
but at least seen in all of my mess.
Mm.
Not many people can say they do that every week.
No. And how do we come up with our topics every week? We pretty much, just like Mike said, we jump on the call and we go, "How you going, brother?" And one of us will have a share about what's going on, or both of
Yeah,
us. And then we feel into it. And most of the time, I just say, "All right, buddy, I've got it. I've got it." The topic is created from our drop in, and then I hit record. Mike's got no idea what we're going to speak
no idea
about.
what's coming.
Never. And
And then you throw it to me first. You're like, "What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "I've had no prep time." So I
yeah,
have to dive in and just go, "Well, I have to be present with what's here
yeah,
because
well, sometimes we do that.
it's
Sometimes I go, "What do you think about this?" And what do you think about that? Probably 30 to 40% of the time, but I reckon 60% of the time, you've got no idea what I'm going to say, what we're going to speak about until I go, "Welcome to the podcast."
and I get the title, which you're only making up on the fly.
Yeah, yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and that direction, at the end of it, the way I get the title and the theme is basically getting an overview of everything we spoke about in the podcast and generating it from that. There's no preconceived specific thing. Often
Mm,
I'll say it at the start what I think it is, but it often doesn't end up being what the title of the podcast is. So
it
it's
actually ends
really
up.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so let's do a ping pong to finish up the last bit here. Let's go. We don't have too long, another five minutes or so. Um, the three biggest takeaways or unforeseen things that have happened to you from doing this podcast. Go.
There's that breath right there. What What are the three biggest things that have happened to me? Or
Yeah,
is it?
biggest take. Okay, so it can be the biggest takeaways, like so, which we've pretty much already done all that. So maybe let's frame it like the three most unforeseen things that have been repercussions for you of doing this podcast in your personal life.
They're all big and they're all got a lot of emotional charge to them. I'm going to
Mm,
be really honest. I can feel the charge right now. Not It's not ugly. It's
mm,
just a lot of emotion, a lot of feelings, and if there's no anger, it was all maybe sadness or big moments in my life or pivotal moments where I've changed and gone, oh, I need to choose myself here or something like that. Okay, what are three things? I'm gonna say from a relationship perspective would be if I could use that as an umbrella. Um, have been my greatest learnings. Um, and obviously that would be where the emotion I'm feeling lies. Um, and all of that, I would say, comes back to me owning more and more and more and more shit. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could have been better there. I could have done that, or I could see this, or I can see that perspective now. Um, yeah. Um, Even in sharing, like you'll ask me a question sometimes, and then I'll answer it, and then as I'm saying the answer, I'll go, oh, but it could have been perceived this way, and I'll get that lesson. It's almost like a therapy session in a way. It's
yeah,
as I'm speaking to your question and I'm giving my conscious answer, I'm getting, oh, that's the other perspective, or that's the unconscious pattern playing out because I'm hearing it out loud in real time. So yeah, but definitely, if the area would be relationships for sure.
yeah,
Um, our connection,
yeah,
our brotherhood has just 10 by, there's not a number. Um, the love that I and love, admiration, and respect, but our
mm,
connection that's forged
yeah,
from from this. And here's the funny thing. I've always said this. I just caught it then. I've always said this with men that I've trained with in the gym. It was a death match. It was a death duel. We would train to the death, and we would celebrate at the end of it. With a high five or a shake or a hug, whatever it would be.
mm,
And I always believe those men, and I could list the three men who have been instrumental in that area in my life. I don't speak to as much today, very rarely, but I could ring them today and they would be at my doorstep because we've gone through war together.
yeah,
And that was a physical war, and I've seen this in World War I, World War II, where the diggers are still best of friends year on year, and they get together and they commemorate, and because they've faced adversity, they've gone to the sword for each other and with each other.
yeah,
We do that at an emotional level. We don't battle in the gym. We don't, although even though we do go to the gym, but we don't battle in that way. We don't go to war. We actually go to war with our spirit and our emotions and our egoic self.
yeah,
And you hold me in that frame, and you witness me, and then
mm,
you accept me in that fucking mess that I bring to the show every week. um, and it's allowed and it's celebrated. And so for me, that level of brotherhood is no different. It's forged so deeply because you do it consistently.
Mm.
And for me, yeah, that would be the second point is the brotherhood that we've created through this podcast will stand the test of time, in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah, definitely. Showing that side of ourselves too, that side that really no one else gets to see in their perception of us unless they're deeply connected with us, you know.
Correct.
That's huge.
And I'm going to actually call it on that, just those two,
Yeah, great.
because that
Thank
feels
you.
big. That feels big enough for me. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, I've got my three as well, which have just come while hearing you speak and feeling into the question that I just made up, as we do on this podcast. Number one, I'm going to bag fitness, health, and relationships all in one bundle there. The reflections, the inspiration that I get just keeps growing and growing, and I keep getting better and better at it every month and every year, to the point where now I'm leaning more into those things that light me up, and I've got now my schedules. It's, you know, it's all penciled in, well, not penciled, it's written in stone in my schedule, and that accountability. You know, I'm always reading inspirational books and doing inspirational courses in business and life and coaching and stuff, and um, the thing that one of the books that I've been reading quite a bit the last few years, and I generally will read a book that resonates 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, is the 5 a.m. Club. And this year I softened
Yeah. Wow.
to, yeah, the 5 a.m. Club. I love that book so much. And the one
Robin
thing as
Sharma. Yeah.
well, yeah, that's right. I think
Yeah.
so. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one thing is another game changer. You know, we're always talking about books on here, but both of those are insane game changers if you haven't read them, at least for me. So that one thing, to come back to that simplicity of focusing on that one thing, and that was a big birthing of, you know, Autism Music Australia and some of those other projects. But the thing of the 5 a.m. Club alone, like softening to myself this year, I failed every day almost last year at trying to get up at 5 a.m. to be in the gym to get my workout happening and stuff, and tried going to bed earlier and earlier. And over this Christmas holidays, I had an epiphany that I'm changing the name to the 6 a.m. Club. And I did.
Nice.
And it's just changed everything in my life. And the thing that it's really brought is the softness to myself on not failing every day when I struggle to get out of bed
Yep.
to be in the gym at 5 a.m. Now I'm almost every day successfully starting in the gym at 6 a.m. And if not, you know, the worst case scenario has been 6:30, but I'm often up at now 5:45 and in the gym or doing exercise by 6, and that softened, that softening has really accentuated the commitment. And also now going with the tides, I live right on the water, and the tides are pretty extreme here. So, and I love water sports. I love these things that light me up. And my new thing has been this, you know, surfing, surfing like an electronic sort of kite, a foil surfboard. So now I'm like with the tides, I'm out there every single day, and I'm going with the tides. So if the tides are low, then I'm in the gym or on the exercise bike, following your structure, mate, that you've recommended for me through the apps and programs that you've helped create for me in this time, and the accountability that you've brought gently of being able to update these apps and programs for me. But just through showing up, even without you saying anything, like we don't even have to talk, just by looking at you, I'm like, oh shit, just like, you know, you do with me with those reasons. And, you know, and you with your music now, getting back into your music lessons again soon,
Yeah.
which I'll talk to you about shortly as well. But those gentle, so fitness, health, relationships, like I said earlier about the things that come up in the podcast, I'm like, yep, need to work on that. So the question was unforeseen things that have come from this podcast. My probably biggest unforeseen thing after that is judgment from other people on their perception of what we've spoken about in our podcasts.
Yeah.
And this is something that's resonates with me a lot, especially from my days as a singer-songwriter that still is continuing, but you know, my 7 albums of music that are out to the world, the perceptions that people have about my music, my lyrics, and the stories that they're so sure that my lyrics are about, or the story that it, might be. They think it's about a beloved, and it's actually about an animal or a place or
Mm.
whatever. And then the perceptions that they have about me because of that, which is all welcome. The perceptions that people have had about me and my career, from thinking that I'm, super successful, to being like, oh, don't worry, mate, one day you'll make it. And how, it's all my own perception, but that's been reflected again in this podcast of having other people come at me being like, hey, so I just saw your latest podcast short. Are you like talking about me, or like just straight into trigger? Like, I can't believe you said that. Like, and being like, well, in truth, that wasn't actually anything to do with you or about you,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm probably a little blessed in that way, not being on socials anymore,
Yep.
and I don't get that feedback mechanism anymore.
Yep.
It sort of goes out in the ether, and I forget that it's even there.
Yep.
Um, so unless someone reminds me, but
Unless someone sees your social media posts, and
yes,
yeah,
well, yeah.
yeah.
So, but
Oh, see,
yeah,
sorry, sees my social media posts is what I meant to say. Sees,
yeah,
me
not just
posting your
not mine, but
stuff. So yeah,
you can't even tag me anymore.
yeah, I can't. You're like, this is this
You're out
guy,
there on your own. You're just copying all the bad. You're
Yeah,
copying it all.
yeah. I'll start having just a hashtag Michael Cooper, because that's all I can do. Yeah, no at symbol.
We never know. We might find our way back there. I can't see that happening just yet, but it's
Yeah,
I never say never, and I don't know.
beautiful. And the last thing is the connection, the unforeseen thing that's come out of this, that's been the best thing of all, like you said, mate, is just the connection with you, mate, and the connection with myself through this, connection with others, but mostly the connection with you, and the connection with our growing listeners. It's beautiful seeing those stats going up. More and more every month, the last few months especially. It's great to see people really starting to download them and get into them. So thank you to
Yeah,
everyone. Thank you to you, Mike. Beautiful reflection. That's episode 35 wrapped up. And yeah.
thank you, brother. I appreciate all the laughs, the chuckles, the quince, the wincing, and the it's stressful, not stressful, but the moments of like contraction and then breathing into it, which is a beautiful skill to learn on the fly. But
Yeah.
thank you for all of the kind words, mate. But also thank you for today as well.
Yeah. Thank you for the music and the spirit and the accountability. And thank you especially for the accountability. That's the magic of it all. I'm blessed that I get to sit down and edit all these podcasts and get to watch them all before they go up and in the shorts. And it's beautiful reliving them. Oh, little side note, mate. Did you notice that we're filming on a different angle today?
I didn't actually know that.
What?
No,
So we're not in.
I am. I
Yeah.
can see my angle's different. How did you
Okay.
do that?
So we're not in horizontal. We're not in vertical. We're in horizontal. Do you know why we're in horizontal today, Mike?
Talk to me, why, mate?
Because this is the first episode that's going on YouTube, on our new YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that, but my camera angle looks also different as well.
Okay.
Maybe because it was like that before.
Could be, but
Yeah.
yeah. So
Look at that.
there you go. So to all our new YouTube family that have made it through this entire video,
Mm.
awesome.
Well,
Thank you. And this is what we do.
well,
And I'm going to go and upload a lot of our other podcasts as well that have been done in the
vertical.
the vertical, and they'll just have to sort of suck it up and deal with it. But yeah, we'll see
Yes.
how it goes. So this is what we do. This is what we're about. If you dig it, please come and tune in to many more episodes. And also
Mm.
apologies to our Instagram and Facebook stories people who are now going to have to watch it in horizontal mode on a vertical inclined platform. So there you go.
Yeah.
You
We
can't
can't,
please everyone.
we can't please everyone unless we recorded like with two cameras.
Yeah.
That could be actually that's possibly the way to do it.
Well, we could
Uh,
totally edit more and have like the software take care of it for us, but can I be bothered? Probably not. AI
no,
might do it for me. We'll see.
maybe one
Um,
day soon.
see how AI goes with it. We'll see. But anyway, brother, thank you so much. And to our
Love you,
listeners,
bro.
love you guys. Thanks heaps.